There's been a lot of lying in this family.
And a lot of love.
More lies.
Dysfunctional families may be stressful, chaotic, full of bad role models, and prone to exploding at any time, but also they're fun. For a long time, the TV family was the opposite of dysfunctional, projecting an ideal of the strong, stable, healthy nuclear family.
I feel great. And why not? I got a dad who can do anything.
But over time, families on screen have increasingly failed or stopped trying to fulfill that Leave It to Beaver myth. And we can see a number of recurring reasons as to why. One of the biggest is money.
Do you think we're wealthy? Wealthy people drive fancy cars, they buy fresh pasta. Do we do any of those things?
The stability of the nuclear family was at its core a financial stability, but more modern dysfunctional families are open about how not having enough money can make it almost impossible to adhere to an old-fashioned domestic ideal.
You're almost 9. You're gonna have to start pulling your weight.
That's right, and get a real job, not just dipping into the collection plate at St. Tim's.
Other families are dysfunctional when they have too much money or belong to a culture that's hyperfixated on power and achievement, instead of treating children like human beings.
In fact, virtually all memory of the brilliance of the young Tenenbaums have been erased by 2 decades of betrayal, failure, and disaster.
Whether the family is rich or working class, another source of family stress can be work, especially when there's overlap with a dysfunctional family business.
I want some burgers and fries. Well, there's some right here.
Don't you tell me no lies.
I can't tell if they're helping or hurting us out there, but I think hurting.
The dysfunction in the family might also reflect changing values in society at large, or generation gaps, as kids and parents sometimes feel like they're from different worlds.
How are the parental units functioning these days?
Dad's doing his up with people routine. Mom really hasn't been saying much.
Ironically, instead of challenging the notion of family, dysfunctional family stories usually reaffirm its importance and underline the life lessons and joys family can yield, perhaps even more so when it deviates from our ideas of a perfect norm.
So you left her right from the start.
Absolutely.
Here's our take on why the dysfunctional family's lack of harmony might just be the inspiration we need to embrace the ways that we all deviate from the functional mold.
We may pick on each other, get into little scrapes, call each other names, and occasionally steal from each other. But that's because we're a family.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and click the bell to be notified about all of our new videos. Thanks to Honey for sponsoring this video. If you're like me, you love everything about online shopping, except for wondering if you've missed out on an awesome promo code that would have saved you money. But with Honey, you don't have to wonder. It scours the internet for the best deals it can find and automatically applies the savings to your cart. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/thetake to start saving now.
I think you're the nicest daddy in the whole world.
The rise of the dysfunctional family on screen was a reaction to the dominant image of the perfect-feeling nuclear family, an aspirational and conservative portrait of a breadwinner father, homemaker mother, and children who, while they may be occasionally challenging, ultimately respect the authority of their parents.
Now cut out this foolishness and unlock this door.
Starting in 1954, Father Knows Best fostered the expectation of the caring, wise father, always on hand to offer sage advice to his children.
Real happiness comes from doing things for others.
From 1958 to 1966, The Donna Reed Show offered up Donna Reed as the archetypal immaculate American housewife.
I fixed this up so you'll know exactly where we go next week, when we go, and what will probably be served.
These shows and others like Leave It to Beaver, I Love Lucy, and Make Room for Daddy emphasized an idea of all-American tradition. But there was a level of falsehood to the specific way of life that they projected into millions of homes every night.
Dinner's almost ready. I have a delicious roast chicken in the oven.
Good.
The nuclear family was and is a specifically middle-class structure with strengths that are only possible for members of a certain socioeconomic bracket. Whereas in earlier eras, our culture emphasized more reliance on the extended family. The nuclear family lifestyle that 50s and 60s TV glamorized of 2 parents and their children under one roof is only really suited to families who can afford to pay for childcare or have one parent, typically the mother, stay home.
$25 I got in the bank?
Well, that's just the start, Beaver. The idea is to add a little each year.
WandaVision unpacks the artifice of this TV fantasy by inserting 2 MCU superhero characters into a throwback family sitcom universe. Through showing a witch and an android comically struggling to pass for normal, the show satirizes how seductively comforting yet unattainable the family sitcom's idea of normality was.
Don't forget.
I haven't. Oh.
WandaVision's sitcom references track how the picture-perfect family sitcom image broke down over the decades, as shows increasingly grew more honest and began to mine humor from cracks in the impeccable facade.
Keep it down! Your mother needs a rest. The house is a mess, the family's starving.
In the 70s, All in the Family showed how fractious it could be when parents and children disagreed about fundamental values and the state of the world.
How can you be against gun control with all the assassinations?
I'm saying, maybe Governor Wallace wouldn't have got shot if he had a rod in his miss.
In the 80s, Married with Children gave us the image of the quintessential American family, but featuring crass characters who didn't seem to like each other much.
Quiet down, the two of you, I gotta think. Leave the wife. Leave the wife.
The Simpsons was conceived as an obvious subversion of the all-American family, which is why they drew the ire of sitting Republican President George H.W. Bush.
We are going to keep on trying to strengthen the American family to make American families a lot more like the Waltons and a lot less like the Simpsons. Huh?
While the Simpsons are still relatively insulated by middle-class comforts,
a dream house, 2 cars, a beautiful wife, a son who owns a factory, fancy clothes, and lobsters for dinner.
All in the Family and Roseanne focused on working-class families who had more serious difficulties to deal with than the sitcom shenanigans that are over by each episode's end.
If it wasn't for me, the bank would have came and took this house a long time ago, Dan.
The origin story of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air also directly alludes to how it's the class status of the nuclear family, not its inherent structure, that provides the stability. When Will is living in a poor neighborhood in Philadelphia, he's headed down a difficult path without any functional family unit to speak of.
I had to learn everything on my own. I mean, my mom was working all the time and everything.
When he moves in with his rich uncle and auntie in well-off Bel-Air, the family unit is still a little dysfunctional in a funny way. But because Will has moved up in class, he's able to access the concrete benefits the upper middle-class nuclear family has to offer.
That's how I felt when I came to Bel-Air, you know? It's like everybody had 2 skates, and I was trying to keep up with 1. Thanks for my other skate, Uncle Phil.
In Malcolm in the Middle, which began in 2000, not having enough money is a constant pressure, and the main stress triggering the family's dysfunction.
You are stupid enough to throw away $1,300 that this family desperately needs!
In this era, larger trends toward realism in storytelling coincided with more on-screen honesty in the family sitcom about how hard it could be to parent and provide for children.
I was hoping you can give me an allowance.
But here's what he heard.
Since you work like a slave all day and don't have any time to enjoy your own money, can I have it?
As the perfect family became less relatable, the dysfunctional family took on a certain intrigue and eventually surpassed the functional one on screen.
You won't be happy until this whole family's in therapy.
Early prestige TV icons, The Sopranos and 6 Feet Under, both, in different ways, tried to uncover the warts and all truth of family relationships.
I'm supposed to get a vasectomy when this is my male heir?
In early 2000s cinema, the dysfunctional family comedy became associated with an indie coolness, with enviably quirky characters rising out of the nonconformity of these family units. Wes Anderson's rise as one of the most prominent indie auteurs was built on off-kilter family dynamics.
You probably don't even know my middle name.
That's a trick question. You don't have one.
Helen.
Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums found a romance in the dysfunction, enjoying its flawed father figure.
This is my adopted daughter, Margot Tenenbaum.
And brilliant, esoteric children with their transcendent quirkiness.
He started buying real estate in his early teens and seemed to have an almost preternatural understanding of international finance.
Anderson's particular brand was a key influence on other indie film families of the 2000s. From Igby Goes Down's sarcastic rich kid and self-medicating mother.
Perhaps you should cut down on the Valium and the sleeping pills. You'd have more energy.
Without them, I get very tense.
To Little Miss Sunshine's silent, Nietzsche-obsessed brother and Proust scholar uncle.
Did I mention that I'm the preeminent Proust scholar in the U.S.?
To the orphaned con men brothers in The Brothers Bloom.
At 10 and 13, Bloom and Stephen, the younger, and the old, had been through several foster families.
Nope. Anderson's collaborator Noah Baumbach brought Anderson-esque wry humor and esoteric characters to his semi-autobiographical The Squid and the Whale.
He's a Philistine.
What's a Philistine?
It's a guy who doesn't care about books or interesting films and things.
Then I'm a Philistine.
But he added a dark, slightly more realistic texture and more judgment of the father figure's toxic behavior.
You never made a dinner.
I made burgers the time you had pneumonia.
Only after I insisted.
Tracking how the other family members eventually outgrow that unhealthy influence.
I shouldn't have broken up with Sophie.
Why did you?
I thought I could do better.
While some of this era's characters were struggling to make ends meet,
What's that, chicken? Every night is the chicken.
Many portrayed the upper-class, elite, dysfunctional family who proved that having lots of money is not a solution to family problems and can even create other problems. In Igby Goes Down, Igby voices a Catcher-in-the-Rye-esque disillusionment with the phoniness of his uber-wealthy family's society.
It's about the hypocrisy of the place, which I couldn't tolerate.
Which either turns people cold,
They are rigid and they are cold.
or crushes them under the pressure.
I feel this great pressure coming down on me.
Arrested Development mines comedy from how the wealth of the Bluth family members allowed them to never mature beyond acting like selfish, spoiled children.
Can't you just charge the party to the company?
No, it's not a business expense.
So what? Lindsay's been staying at the Four Seas for like a month. She's probably charging the company.
More recently, in Schitt's Creek, after a rich family's money is stripped away, we can observe how their wealth has been insulating them not just from familial stress, but also from each other.
That was 10 years ago when everybody does dumb stuff in high school.
You were 17? Did you know this?
As if. I don't do girl talk.
It's only without that buffer that they stop avoiding their core issues and learn to become more emotionally in touch with one another.
I could not be more proud of my family than I am right now. And as much as I'll miss this, being together, at least I can go to sleep knowing we're all gonna be okay.
The upper-class dysfunctional family on screen can represent a kind of old-world outlook or way of life that was falling to ruins. While stories like Anderson's might express nostalgia and affection for their fading aristocracies, the takeaway of many of these stories is that it's mostly good to let certain dysfunctional social assumptions and power structures die out.
Maybe we could even things out a bit and I could stay at Mom's a few extra nights because I've been staying more at yours.
I'd like you around.
I don't think I want to come for a while.
At the same time, the dysfunctional family story can make super wealthy families feel relatable, for better and worse. The Crown even gives this treatment to the British royal family, opening up a window into the struggles of the royal family members and thereby building empathy for them.
If you don't fit the perfect mold of silent, dutiful supplication, then you'll be spat out or you'll be hidden away.
Another strand of dysfunctional family stories looks at how being a rich and powerful family can make the family part a little too secondary.
The house that puts family first will always defeat the house that puts the whims and wishes of its sons and daughters first.
Your legacy, that you love so much more than your actual children.
The narrative might explore how work conflicts in a family business can dominate the home life. This reflects how, contrary to the old-school nuclear family ideal which kept work life and home life distinct,
Well, I gotta go to work, I'll see you later, huh?
All right, sweetheart.
Bye.
increasingly today, those lines are blurred as many people work from home and have to work more grueling hours than the classic 9 to 5. On-screen parents can also bring dysfunction into the family through rigidly adhering to an ideology or desiring to raise gifted children as an exercise in perfectionist achievement.
Ethelene Tenenbaum kept the house and raised the children, and their education was her highest priority. She wrote a book on the subject.
This can result in not treating kids like kids, or even much like human beings. The Tenenbaum children struggle as adults with the pressure of having been coded as child geniuses who are assumed to be destined for greatness.
She had not completed a play in 7 years.
In Captain Fantastic, the father of the Cash family wants to raise his children to live a totally self-sufficient existence in the wilderness.
Aim for the liver or the kidneys, otherwise you'll never learn.
Shouldn't we aim here? A knife in the lungs creates an pneumothorax.
But while their life is admirable and the well-read independent children appear like a liberal's dream, they eventually question whether the extremeness of this parenting philosophy is actually harming them.
Mom was sicker than any of us knew.
Dad made her crazy. Dad's dangerous.
The Ice Storm explores how tumultuous social change in the 70s is reflected through dysfunction in the family unit.
The men put their car keys in a bowl, and at the end of the evening, the women line up and fish them out, and whoever's they've got, they go home with.
While the ice is also a metaphor for the coldness and alienation of picture-perfect wealthy suburban Connecticut families who are bored with their lives.
You're boring me. I have a husband. I don't particularly feel the need for another.
That's a very good point. We're having an affair.
And a timeless source of dysfunction or conflict in the family is generational disagreement and diverging cultural values. Families who move to a different country, like Fresh Off the Boat's Wongs, frequently deal with cultural differences between their generations.
Why do all your shirts have black men on them?
It's Notorious B.I.G.
The irony of the dysfunctional family story is that it almost always ends up reaffirming the importance of the family unit.
Your purpose in life was to build a happy family, and you achieved that.
However unrole model like The Simpsons may be, their family remains loving and together, going strong for well over 30 seasons.
I love you, Dad.
Me too, little girl.
In Home Alone, Kevin McAllister's dysfunctional family abandons him twice over Christmas. But the film's ultimate message is about the value of family and how much we'd miss them if they were suddenly gone.
I really like my family, even though sometimes I say I don't.
In Arrested Development, despite Michael's plans to get away from his toxic family,
you and I, we've waited long enough. It's time to move on.
He never does leave. However unbearable he finds the other Bluths, he still experiences moments of love and connection within the dysfunction.
Thank you. Maybe you're not that selfish.
And he feels it's important for his son George Michael to have extended family around.
But we are family. And I want my son to be happy, so maybe we should be in each other's lives.
It's significant that both Home Alone and Arrested Development find meaning not just in the nuclear family, but in the extended family. Home Alone doesn't sugarcoat the chaos that comes with dealing with aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents.
He started it. He ate my pizza on purpose. He knows I ate sausage and olives and
Look what
onions
you did, you little jerk.
But when Kevin meets Marley, who's estranged from his son, the boy reminds Marley of how the joys of extended family are too precious to be lost.
I don't care how mad I was, I talked to my dad, especially around the holidays. Just give it a shot, for your granddaughter anyway.
Many of these stories even underline that the dysfunction itself has its plus sides. Shameless uses the lovably chaotic Gallaghers to spotlight that being poor in America today means constantly facing inescapable levels of dysfunction.
You got a Happy Meal on the front of that shirt. Arms up.
But the spirit of the show expresses endless affection for the family's scrappy resourcefulness and at times even romanticizes the way that their obstacles can bring them closer. Malcolm and his brothers Reese and Dewey are, like the Tenenbaums, gifted.
He has an IQ of 165.
Who?
Malcolm. He's a genius.
Though because they're not rich, they're not necessarily expected to fulfill this potential. Both this lack of pressured expectation and their chaotic family setting sometimes work in the kid's favor. When Dewey awakens to his compositional gifts, it's precisely his dysfunctional family that provides his creative inspiration.
No one knows it but me.
Lois.
Likewise, in Arrested Development, the ultimate reason Michael sticks around is likely because his mad, selfish family offers his life color that it wouldn't otherwise have.
You're a chicken. Cuckoo-ca-cha.
Michael and women? A cuckoo-ca-cha.
That's what I was just telling him.
Has anyone in this family ever even seen a chicken?
As Leo Tolstoy wrote in the first line of Anna Karenina, all happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. While the dysfunctional family may not actually be unhappy, the point holds that there's a more interesting story behind families that aren't flawlessly blissful.
He also stole bonds out of my safety deposit box when I was 14.
The Cashes and the Tenenbaums don't seem to regret that their family lives were exceptional rather than mainstream. And their high levels of cynicism and individual thinking make it even more powerful and intentional when moments of familial tenderness do occur.
Sorry I let you down, Chaz. All of you. I've been trying to make it up to you.
I've had a rough year, Dad. I know you have, Chazzy.
In the Darjeeling Limited 2, while the relationship between the three brothers is distant, their connection is unbreakable, forged in the same dysfunction.
I guess I've still got some more healing to do.
You're getting there, though.
In WandaVision, Wanda is using her fake idyllic fantasy world to retreat from grief. But as she increasingly faces her reality and her family's sitcom life gets more flawed, the love she has for Vision and their family grows even stronger and more resilient.
Your mother and I, very proud of you both.
Very proud.
Despite classic TV's neat image of the functional nuclear family, the whole concept of what a family can be has actually been in flux almost as soon as it was introduced. Today, we're seeing greater acceptance of blended families, same-sex families, and chosen families.
Tonight it feels so damn good. Just being a nothingless speck with my chosen family.
One of the late 2010s most wholesome feeling family sitcoms, Modern Family, still takes much from the dysfunctional family model.
Oh my God.
I got this, baby.
while underlining the normality of blended and diverse extended families. Now, the idea that there is one kind of family that is superior over others feels both exclusionary and unrealistic. The ultimate message of the dysfunctional family story is that all families exist with some level of dysfunction, and that's okay.
Oh, Lord, be honest. Are we the most pathetic family in the universe or what? Amen.
Worst prayer yet.
Family is hard work and inevitably chaotic. In The Incredibles 2, Mr. Incredible finds being a crime-fighting superhero far easier than being a stay-at-home dad.
They want us to do it.
I don't know that way. Why would they change math? Math is math.
okay,
Math
Dad.
is math.
The dysfunctional family story is a form of catharsis, reminding us that everything not being perfect can actually help shape us into the most resourceful, resilient, fascinating individuals we can be. And flaws in a family don't mean that there's not still love there.
I had this mental picture of the family that if I was lucky enough, one day I would end up with. I didn't get any of that. Wound up with this sorry bunch. And I'm thankful for that every day.
Even if our own families may be some shade of dysfunctional, most of the time we wouldn't want them any other way.
Everybody just pretend to be normal, okay?
This is The Take on your favorite movies, shows, and culture.
Thank you so much for watching and for supporting us.
Please subscribe and never miss a take.
Thanks again to Honey for sponsoring this video. In this world of online shopping, Honey is like a trusty sidekick who knows the best deals and will help you save your hard-earned money. All you have to do is add it to your browser for free and shop as you normally would for clothes, games, or whatever your heart desires. When you check out, the Honey button drops down and you can click Apply Coupons. Then Honey will search for promo codes for that site and apply the savings to your cart. If you aren't using Honey, you're basically missing out on free savings, and you may be wasting your valuable time trying to find the best deals. Instead of hunting for promo codes, why not let Honey find them for you? So join today. Get Honey for free by clicking the link in our description below. Join honey.com/thetake. You'll be helping support The Take as we unpack the pop culture world around us.